Canucks with a couple of third-period goals to make things interesting, but in the end, they fall 4-2 to the Montreal Canadiens. Another night where offense was hard to come by. We're breaking it down on Rink Wide Vancouver. It was the Montreal Canadiens 4 and the Vancouver Canucks 2 at Rogers Arena. Jeff and Irf with you here on Rink Wide Vancouver, a presentation of Bet365. We'll give you our thoughts on this one, but we want your thoughts as well. You're always welcome to contribute to Rink Wide Vancouver. If you want to hit us up with a super chat, by all means, you can go that route. Our super chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. It was 3-0 for the Habs going to the third. Kind of felt like it just might end that way, that the Canucks, who struggle so mightily to put pucks in the net, may not get one on this night, but they did get two to get within the goal. And then Mike Matheson seals it into an empty net, and that's the ball game. 4-3 or 4-2 is the final score. First half of a back-to-back set. Irf, stakes just keep getting higher for this Vancouver Hockey Club. Can't afford too many more losses, and this was one that felt like it was there. I mean, give Montreal credit. Their top line, obviously the difference, and the struggle continues for this team to find ways to generate offense.
Only team in the NHL without a win after trailing through 40 minutes of a hockey game. So you mentioned the goals. They come. They just don't have the next gear to get a tying goal or be able to kick it into another motion to be able to generate even more offense in that third period. We'll get to it. But, yeah, I mean, the Montreal Canadiens top line came to play, and that's kind of been the story of the Vancouver Canucks on the other side, where the top line and their top producers have been in question a lot.
Rick Tocchet always talking about desperation and earning your ice time was sort of the catchphrase and the buzzwords the other night after the game against the Dallas Stars. They couldn't catch their breath. A minute and 6 seconds in, the Montreal Canadiens opened the scoring. Nick Suzuki with a nasty deke on Kevin Lankinen, but never should have got in behind Marcus Pettersson. And it was Marcus Pettersson the other night as well on that odd man rush for the Dallas Stars, who made it made scoring look. And that's part of the problem right now, and it has to be a frustration for the Canucks coaching staff. Is these teams that do get odd man rushes and attack make it look so easy when they score against the Canucks, and the Canucks, again, just a whale of a time putting pucks in the net. And give Sam Montembeault some credit, but he wasn't all that busy on the night. In fact, they scored 2 in the third period and make it a 3-2 hockey game. They scored on 2 of their first 3 shots. Elias Pettersson's power play goal came 11 minutes into the third period. This is a team that was down 3-0. Like, you would have thought they would throw everything they had at the Habs. And 11 minutes in, they had 2 shots on goal. Like, what about score effects? Where did that come from? Or where was that tonight? And then Elias Pettersson flings one that does find its way in. Now there's 9 minutes to go. Like, again, I didn't see this, like, absolutely emptying the tank. And, of course, they do have to turn around and fly to Calgary and play the Flames tomorrow night. So, I don't think that was strategy, that they didn't push to the limits when there was an opportunity to get a result out of this one. I thought I would see a little more desperation, but again, maybe this is who the Vancouver Canucks are.
Yeah, and I think this is who they have been for a long time. I mean, no disrespect to Derek Forbort or to Philip Hronek, they led the team in shooting through 40 minutes of this hockey game, and until Elias Pettersson, woke up there in the third period, and obviously Nils Hoglander as well, it was Derek Forbort in a game that the team was down 3-0, and it was the defenseman. Also, Elias Pettersson had 2 shots on net as well through 40 minutes of that hockey game. It's just not enough, and it's the offense, and they did play better. They didn't get bounces. They hit the post a couple times. The Dakota Joshua goal that could have been a goal if they looked at it a different way, but too many woulda, coulda, shouldas, and the Canucks just were left here again saying that, well, they needed more urgency, they need more of this, they need more of that. Sometimes you have to create your own luck, and the Canucks aren't doing that.
Yeah, 15 straight now, held to 3 or fewer, 24 of 25. Montreal, one of 2 teams this since January 1st. One of 2 opponents that the Canucks have actually scored 4 goals against. The other was St. Louis, but the Canucks lost 5-4 in overtime. The last time they faced the Habs, this one, I don't know, I thought maybe they would be able to force overtime. Wasn't to be. So back-to-back losses to Dallas and Montreal after the homestand started promisingly with wins over Anaheim and Minnesota. 2-2 homestand, 500 hockey's not going to get them where they want to go, whether it's over a 4-game sample or over the remaining 18 games. The Canucks now 29, 24, and 11, so that 30th win of the season remains elusive for them. We'll see what they can do in Cowtown on Wednesday. And the home ice record, again, looked like it had taken a turn in the right direction, but 16, 14, and 4. That ain't it. That's not getting it done over the long haul for the Vancouver Canucks. Let's get to the 3 stars of this hockey game. Their presentation of Greta Bar YVR. 3 stars in the building. Yuri Slafkovsky, who ends up with a goal and 2 assists. So he was in on all 3 of the goals, scored the second goal to make it 2-0. Snapshot off the left wing. We'll talk more about that one from a Canucks perspective because of the 3 goals that Kevin Lankinen allowed. Didn't love that one, but anyways, it found the back of the net. 12th of the year unassisted for Slafkovsky. A goal and 2 helpers. He's the first star in the building. Philip Hronek, the second star down at the Raj, and Nick Suzuki is star number 3 here on Rink Wide. We flipped. I just thought that top line, and look, honorable mention to Cole Caulfield, who gets what turns out to be the game winner. Nice finish off 2-on-1, nifty setup from Suzuki midway through the second period. But Caulfield, who gets his 32nd of the year, leads the Habs, and what the Canucks would do for a 30-goal scorer. But they got one 20-goal scorer, and we'll see if they have anybody that adds to that total by season's end. Anyways, we'll give Cole Caulfield a shout-out. But his line mates, and then we've got Philip Hronek, who had the goal, the assist, 3 block shots, and on top of all that, a season high for Philip Hronek, 27 minutes and 50 seconds of ice time. Played a ton down the stretch when the Canucks were pushing. Obviously no Quinn Hughes. And so in his absence, credit where it's due, Philip Hronek has stepped up offensively, shouldering the load. Problem there is a season high the night before what is now the biggest game of the season. They're probably going to ask him to do the same thing on Wednesday. What'll he have left in his tank?
Well, it's the thing. And I think that, you have to look at it from outside looking in. Like, this is the most important game of the season against the Calgary Flames tomorrow. Like, it really is, right? Where you are in the standings, where you want to be. Are you a playoff team? This is who you're going to have to go up against. The points are up for grabs. The Calgary Flames are sitting and waiting for you to come, and you have to ice your best lineup. I thought that there was going to be maybe some thought of Artur Shilov's going into the net in that third period. The game was down, but they decided to go the other route. But it's going to be a tough hill. They got to get to Calgary. They got to get their minds right, and they got to go in and have their best game at least in their last 15.
What does their best game look like these days? That's the question. Slafkovsky, Suzuki, Hronek, the 3 stars. Brought to you by Greta Bar YVR, the street food menu, the weekly drink specials, all those arcade games. I'm sure with the Habs in town, there were probably some Hab fans that were whooping it up down there. A lot of them will probably go down to Seattle, get the double dip with Montreal playing in Seattle tomorrow night while the Canucks go to Calgary. If you're looking for a place to watch the Canucks and the Flames, check out Greta. We talk about it all the time. If you haven't been, put it on the list and get down there. Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. All right, Super Chats are coming in. A couple of them from Dominic. No superstars, no goals. Simple as that. Yeah, I mean, that is sort of the formula. And look, some signs of life, I suppose, from EP40. Goals in 2 of the last 3, both on the power play. We like the one-timer the other night. This was a wrist shot that Montembeault probably should have stopped. It wasn't like there was a ton of traffic in front of him, but body's moving, and Pettersson flings it from the right point, goes blocker side. Hey, they all count. We got the Canucks within 1. There was time left on the clock, and so the fact that Elias Pettersson is shooting the puck and finding his range now, when there isn't a whole lot else going on for this hockey club, it certainly counts as a positive, but he's just got to keep it up, and he needs some other guys to step in there as well. Dominic also coming with another super chat, says, Canucks need to toughen up in the offseason. Too soft. And yeah, when you see a Montreal team, Josh Anderson just raked Elias Pettersson, took a penalty in the second period, but no response whatsoever. Arbor Jacki is out there doing what he does against all opponents, but yeah, nobody wants the smoke there. I mean, again, I think if you sat Rick Tocchet down and could get the full truth out of him, he would tell you that, yeah, he'd like a few more guys that are willing to mix it up, and if the gloves come off, so be it. That little pushback, that, play more of the way he played the game. The game has changed, but it's always going to be a physical and contact sport, and I don't think that Dominic's wrong necessarily that this team isn't terribly tough to play against.
Well, that's the thing. There's tough to play against and team toughness, and the Canucks have neither. And I think it's evident when you watch. And I think that if you would talk to people like you just mentioned, if you sit down, had a conversation with Rick talking about it, he would probably want players that played like him. Travis Green wanted players that played the game like them. I'm not saying go out and run around and hit guys and things like that, but you got to show that you're in it. Show that you're in the fight. Quinn Hughes gets hit all the time. Cross-check, blade hits, this, that, and the other, and there's no pushback from this roster. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. The game's changed a little bit. Guys aren't out there running around. You saw Ryan Reeves go on waivers. Like, maybe there isn't a spot for that type of player, but there's got to be more pushback from this team. And right now, especially when the games are becoming as desperate as they are, there just isn't enough.
And they didn't lose because Josh Anderson raked Elias Pettersson, but I do think that the Canucks could initiate a little more outside of Kiefer Sherwood, and Sherwood's been consistent in that regard all season, so I want to make sure that I point him out. But again, it feels like he's on an island on a lot of nights where he's the guy that's doing the majority of the punishing, and otherwise there just aren't enough guys that are willing to get in there and do their part. So I wanted to talk about the Slavkovsky goal. 8:34 the first period. The Canucks are already down. Brutal start. Feel sort of that nervous energy in the building. Canuck fans know what's at stake. Hab fans were loving it. But, at 1-0, all right, not a great start. There's 59 minutes of hockey. You're not out of it.
Yep.
But at 2-0, the way this team struggles to score, then it becomes a challenge. And for Slavkovsky to take the loose puck in the neutral zone down the left wing, Tyler Myers kind of gives up a little too much room over on that left side, and Slavkovsky with a, outside the dots. We're looking at the replay on our live stream. That's a shot that Kevin Lankinen has to save. Kevin Lankinen has been terrific for the Canucks. We're not going to go through the entire track record and backstory here, but when the chips are down, the Canucks needed a save in that moment. And honestly, when it's 2-0, given the consequences, given the struggles offensively, I wondered if the hook was going to come out then and save Lankinen for tomorrow night against the Calgary Flames. I do think that there's a goaltending decision to be made about going right back to Kevin Lankinen, and he only gave up one more the rest of the way, and there was nothing he could do about it on the 2-on-1. But I also thought at the start of the third period, like every minute of rest when you're doing the quick turnaround matters. I guess if I was in that position, I probably would have looked long and hard at just sitting Kevin Lankinen for the third period, tell him, this isn't really about you. This is, it's 3-0. Ultimately, they didn't come back with Lankinen staying in the net and playing. So did they miss an opportunity, perhaps, to rest him up, give Artur Silovs a period at the very least? And this isn't about getting game action for Silovs. This is more with an eye. You don't want to run the white flag up the tower. I get that, but as we've said, and we'll continue to say, this game in Calgary, it might be it for them.
Yeah.
If they lose in regulation to the Flames, they'll be 3 back. Calgary will have a game in hand. Calgary wins the game in hand. All of a sudden, a 5-point gap at this point of the season. I'm not saying insurmountable, but that's a challenge.
Yeah. I didn't really like the way Lankinen played the first goal either. I'm not entirely sure that he was ready for a partial breakaway 60 seconds into a hockey game. But the Slavkovsky goal, I agree with you 100%, needed to have that. The 2-on-1 goal, Caulfield's, I don't blame him at all for that one. But in a situation where you know where your team's at, you know what's going on, everything and how big the game was and the magnitude of everything that's happening around you in the standings and everything, that's just one you have to have. And for as good as he's been so much this season, it's one that he's going to want back.
Alex Kennedy on Facebook, roster just ain't going to cut it. Thanks for the shout. Appreciate that. And this is the roster, though. Like it or not, this is the roster for the remaining 18 games, maybe some playoff hockey, who knows. The heavy lifting comes in the summer. There's going to be a lot of time to dissect and break down and talk about wants and needs and all that kind of stuff. This is the roster. These are the decisions that management made over the weekend, the trade deadline. This is their group. And as we said, it's nice to see a little bit of a thaw from Elias Pettersson with a couple of goals, up to 13 on the season now. An outside chance of 20, which, again, given what he's paid and what he's done in the past, 20 goals wouldn't be any sort of thing to celebrate necessarily, but you'd like to see him finish on a high note. There is some real concern about his running mate tonight, Brock Boeser. 9 now without a goal, hasn't scored since the Four Nations, and just not even looking dangerous, Irf.
I was going to ask you, I was going to say, what you like, what you hate, but I think we can both agree on what we didn't like the most, or what the most frustrating part was probably Brock, right? And I think that you mentioned the 9 goals or the 9 games and not scoring. again, doesn't even look like a shell of what he was at some point this season.
Yeah.
We know he's a streaky player. We know things like that, but there's no signs of him even coming back to getting to that point of being the old Brock Boeser, the guy that put in 40 tucks last season, the guy that had 16 power play goals. And right now it's ineffective, and it's unfortunate, and it's tough for Brock, and I understand everything that's happened and what's gone on over the course of the weekend and in the trade deadline and everything, but even before that, leading up to it, like, it's been 9 games now, Jeff. And when it gets to 10, 11, 12, like, what are the Canucks going to do? He's obviously here for a reason. They hope that, he can help them make the playoffs and do that. But right now, I mean, they just moved up to the playoff on the line with Elias Pettersson.
Yeah, he got his buddy back.
And unfortunately, that's hurting them.
Yeah. They saw a few different wingers. Drew O'Connor started the night there. Niels Hoglander got a promotion. There may have been a couple other guys that took some turns there. But yeah, it's troubling. And you're right. If he doesn't score in Calgary, it's double digits at the wrong time of the year for a team that can't score. You look to your 40-goal guy, and he's done it in the past. And yeah, it's just it's tough. It's tough to watch. It's frustrating. Has to be frustrating for him. But yeah, another really quiet night for Brock Boeser, and quiet night I thought for Jake DeBrusk. When you look at he's the leading goal scorer on this hockey club. 17 minutes of ice time, so a little bit more than the other night, having to earn his ice time, but only 2 shots on goal, and he didn't look dangerous. Philip Hedl, the speed is there every night, but it's 1 goal and 12 now for Philip Hedl. He scored in his debut, and you thought, all right, an injection of energy and offense, but it's been 1 goal since. He gets a bunch of shots. He leads the team since he was acquired in shots, but he's got to find a way to translate the shots into goals, because he's kind of joining this group now where the wind is coming out of their offensive sails, and that's been the case for him since the trade deadline as well. Let's just get to the stat that stands out. It's presentation of resurrection spirits. Again, a lot of people not even in their seats when the Montreal Canadiens open the scoring 1 minute and 6 seconds in. Not the fastest goal that the Canucks have given up this season, not one of the 2 fastest goals the Canucks have given up. Alex Turcotte of the LA Kings in January scored 51 seconds in. Nico Hischier, when the Devils came through and demolished the Canucks back in late October, he scored 53 seconds. So twice the Canucks have been scored on in the first minute. This one got past the 60-second mark, but not a whole lot. And you can see the similarity. Back on January the 6th, it was Caulfield opening the scoring 1 minute and 7 seconds in. And this one, they went 1 second better. So, yeah, quick start for the Montreal Canadiens. 2 wins against the Vancouver Canucks for the Montreal Canadiens. Canucks got a single point in the overtime loss at the Bell Center. They get nada out of this one. And as we said, still looking for that 30th win of the season. They'll get another chance on Wednesday in Calgary. The stat that stands out, a presentation of Resurrection Spirits, an East Van company offering a full range of small batch distilled spirits from rye to gin to vodka, even a ready-to-pour old-fashioned. Sounds good right about now. These spirits are crafted using BC ingredients, so you're supporting local, which is certainly more important than ever. They've partnered with our friends to come up with a Secarison price gin, and they've got a deal for you. Yeah, you can see a bottle over my left shoulder there. If you look closely on the live stream, $5 off if you use code S&P. Check it out at resurrectionspirits.ca. You can find out about the S&P gin. You can check out the entire product line there. Get it while you can. Once the bottles are gone, they are gone. The Vancouver Canucks were gone after 60 minutes in this hockey game, and now they're gone to Calgary to try to get it right against the Flames at the Saddle Dome on Wednesday.
Farhan Lalji saying that Rick Tocchet is speaking to the media now, doesn't know who's going to start in goal yet. I think he probably has a good idea, just not tipping his hand either way to let the media know. Also, another quote, Rick Tocchet saying, we didn't have an answer to their top line. And I think that is definitely true.
Not wrong.
The problem is there's been too many games this season where they haven't had an answer to the team's top line. Now, whether it's their top line or doing line juggling or what have you, in most cases and in most games, the Canucks' top performers, their 102-point guy, their guy that scored 40 goals, their new 20 goals scorer, they just haven't been there. Haven't looked like they've been engaged in some of these games, and their top players are just literally not performing as good as other teams are. And it's tough to watch. I understand the frustration with the fan base, and obviously the head coach definitely frustrated with it as well. I'm sure management, to a degree, is at that point too. But yeah, I just go back to the down 3-0. the urgency to have Derek Forbort and Philip Hronek leading the team in shots through 2 periods is just that just tells you everything you really need to know.
Well, I mean, look at the last 2 games.
Yeah.
2 of the goals, Hronek and Forbort.
Yep.
And they're defensemen, and you'll take any contributions, but Elias Pettersson on the power play, the only forward to score in the last 2 games, that's with the man advantage. So 5-on-5, the Canucks have 1 goal from a forward in their last 3 games at 5-on-5. It was Kiefer Sherwood. It was a big one. It was the winner against the Minnesota Wild on Friday night, but EP40 scored on the power play, and Teddy Bluger sealed the deal into an empty net there. So when you can count the 5-on-5 goals that your forward group has scored in 3 games on not just one hand, 1 finger, yeah, not so good. We talked about Tocchet not tipping his hand on his goaltender. Another piece of intrigue here. Quinn Hughes is going to travel.
Yeah.
Going to travel with the Vancouver Canucks. Non-contact jersey at the morning skate. Hasn't taken any contact here. Last played in Seattle before the homestand, so it's been 10 days since he's played. He knows the stakes. He wants to play. Couldn't get clearance to join Team USA for the 4 Nations.
Clearance to join his own team right now.
Will this medical staff clear him to play tomorrow night in Calgary? We'll probably have to wait. There won't be a morning skate with the back-to-back games, so it truly could be like it was in L.A., a game-time decision for Quinn Hughes. But he's on the trip. But if he didn't go on the trip, he can't play. That much I do know. So we'll see how it all shakes down. Hey, on our stat that stands out when I said the early goals, I was a little surprised at this too. Like when the Canucks went down 2-0, I was like, when was the last time they fell behind 2-0 in a hockey game? Because remember they had that run where they opened the scoring in like 9 of 10. You got to go all the way back to January 23rd, the night that the lights kind of got turned off on them in Edmonton. Mm-hmm. So like they've been in all these games. They've opened the scoring early on. When they've given up the first one, they've countered and they've got one of their own. And yet it really hasn't amounted to any sort of stretch of games where they've won. I mean, yes, they went back-to-back before the 2 losses here, but this is the time of the year where they need to win more than they lose, obviously. We said 500 hockey's not going to get it done, and so you're in all these games, these moments that Rick Tocchet talks about. Boy, there were a couple of moments for me. Dakota Joshua in the blue paint, like that close. And I know that the War Room looked at it and the officials spent TV timeout looking at the replay. I don't think a puck could be any closer without going in, but the replays that I saw, like it's not definitive. Like there's no daylight between the puck and the goal line.
Our producer Jacob and I were talking about it, and he said if the puck was parallel to the pad instead of being perpendicular to the pad, it would have been a goal.
Geometry.
But yes, yeah, big time Josh. I learned something.
You bring a protractor?
Absolutely.
Math with Earth. This could be a new segment. Hey, if you want to, we need some sponsors. Yeah, Math with Earth. Hockey Math with Earth. The hockey math's getting pretty easy right now for the Vancouver Canucks with 18 games to go. They just got to win.
Yeah.
Got to win a bunch of them. But yeah, I wanted to mention that one because that makes it a 2-1 game if he scores there, gets the fans into it, Canucks on the board, all that kind of stuff. And then early in the second period, when the Canucks DPD steps up, forces a turnover, Nils Hoglander all alone in front of the net, and we saw Nick Suzuki do the cutback goal to open the scoring. Nils Hoglander had an opportunity, and he got shut down by Montembeault, one of his better saves. And again, moments in a game that would have made it 2-1 early in the second period. Lots of runway at that point, but it wasn't to be for the Vancouver Canucks. So there were some chances. There were chances. I'm of mixed mind here. You look at Dakota Joshua's night. He was busy. He was active. He had those opportunities, but got to find a way to cash in. At the end of the day, nobody wants to hear us talk about chances. They want to hear about goals. Other teams score goals. Not so much for the Vancouver Canucks. The struggles continue here. But I did think, and as I look through my notes, I see Dakota Joshua's name a fair bit. The other guy that I wanted to mention, Pius Suter. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he draws the phantom penalty. David Savard,
right in the knee.
David Savard and Marty Sandlin, we had every right to be pissed off about that. The replays clearly showed the puck hit his knee, Suter goes down, and David Savard gets called for a slash. But, he's in front of the net. He's engaging in front of the net. Again, not the biggest guy, but he's showing that you can get there and stay there and, get into a battle with the defender. And then on the Hronek goal before that, who's standing his ground in front of the net is Pius Suter. And so, we're talking about why isn't this guy doing that and why isn't this guy doing that? I don't think of Pius Suter necessarily as this great net front presence, but just wanted to shout him out at the very least that I thought he did some things that led to offense for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, and look, he's a guy that was, thought that they were gonna move him as well at the trade deadline.
Yep.
And a player obviously still on this roster, but a guy that you know what you're going to get out of every single night. He's not going to get you 25 goals. He's not going to score every single night. He's not going to be one of those guys, but you're going to get maximum effort. Obviously, you saw it taking the puck to the knee and things like that, and he had 2 shots on 5 attempts. So, yeah, I mean, I assume him to have good games. Like, I have no problem with the bottom 9 forwards of the Vancouver Canucks, really. It's the top 3 or top 5 maybe that you really do. Like, you can't ask so much from guys like Dakota Joshua and Pius Suter and Teddy Bluger and things like that, right? You can't. You know what you're going to get out of them every single game. It's the top guys that have to drag this team into the fight, and more often than not, they're not being able to do that. We do have Elias Pettersson post-game if we want to get to that, Jeff.
All right, let's hear from EP40. He scores his 13th of the season, gets the Canucks within 1 with 9 minutes to go, but that was it. Although he did get a piece of Mike Matheson's empty netter, hand-eye, but not enough to keep it from going in. So Matheson and Petey, obviously they've had their battles going back to Petey's rookie year. And then remember when he deked them out for the over? Remember that 7-6 win for the Canucks just before Christmas a couple of years ago? I would have signed up for that tonight.
Oh, yeah.
7 goals. Yeah, they scored 7 goals in a game. Once upon a time, but here's Elias Pettersson, the forward, the goal scorer after the 4-2 loss to Montreal.
I guess we started solid, but they went up in a 3-0 league, and it's a big hill to climb. We gave it an effort and was close at the end, but it wasn't enough.
What can you say about the pushback that your team had in the third there?
No, just also I liked the effort to get back, and I was close to tying it, but yeah, we can't put ourselves in a position like that. It's hard to win games that way.
For you personally, you got a lot more ice time tonight. You seem to dominate puck possession. I know you're more about winning at this stage, but do you feel like your game took another step tonight?
I don't know about steps. I just trying to play my game and trying to be the best player I can be every game. And yeah, it definitely felt better today. But yeah, would have felt better with a win.
Can you look ahead to tomorrow and just talk a bit about the importance of that one?
Yeah, obviously it's a team we're battling against for the spot. Must win for us. Sucks right now, but you just gotta reload for or recharge for tomorrow, whatever you say, and be ready for it. It's gonna be a tough one.
Power play seemed to be having trouble connecting early on. Obviously, you got the goal. What kind of clicked before your goal?
No, I know, and sure helped when I won the draw. Could set up a play right away. But I would try to play right away. It didn't work, and I just try to get them on the other side and try to shoot for a screen and I went home.
Putting on a brave face. Didn't want to talk about his own performance. As we said, and I don't feel like this is scratching for positives. It's just we know the season he's had, and he scored in 2 of 3. And if he could score 2 of every 3 the rest of the way, it would help, certainly, but he's not going to do it alone. But you can just, body language, tone there, pretty frustrated, pretty dejected. I think he probably speaks for his entire team, knows that this was an opportunity lost. And when we said about hockey math, this is why it gets pretty simple. The Canucks have 18 games to go. They got 69 points. They remain a point behind Calgary. They're going to stay below the playoff bar for this night. Can leapfrog the Flames with an outright win. If they go 10-8, if they get 10 wins, 20 points, that gets them to 89. I know it's a turtle derby. I don't know that 89 is getting you into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I think somebody is going to figure out a way to get over the 90 hump. So 11-7 to get to 91 points. Do they have 11 wins in them? Do they have 7 outright losses? We talked on Sunday. 5 of their final 14 games are against Vegas, Dallas, or Winnipeg. Not sure how many of those they're going to win, but you step in the ring, you take your best shot. 12-6 would get them to 93 points, and that probably would be enough. But it would also mean winning 12 of your final 18 games. So there you go. More hockey math. It might have to become a segment here. Rydor says, man, I missed the bubble team.
No.
Sure, they weren't good, but they were fun. This team isn't good, nor is it fun to watch. And I'm seeing a lot of that it's not just that they're not winning hockey games. It's that, really since Christmas, the fun has come right out of watching this group, the excitement. You go to a game, you're pretty much guaranteed that they're not going to get to 4 goals. And so this was another night. Master Troll says, fire up the Tankathon simulator. I don't know if we're there yet.
No, they're definitely not there.
But and Dominic coming with the super chats. This is the hat trick. A hat trick of super chats. So we appreciate that, and so does the BC Mental Health Foundation. Players are playing like they know they're going to have a different coach next year. And I don't want to get too deep into this discussion right here, right now. It is obviously a storyline. But if you're one that thinks that there's another coach, a better coach out there, and that group seems to be growing, does this group deserve a fourth head coach in the last bunch of years?
Who's the guy? Like, I mean, or like who is the person that's right for the job? Who do they deem that, you know, they want? Or is it a decision where management's going to look and say, no, Rick Tocchet, you know, can steer this in the right direction? But I agree why, you know, the listener said that. I mean, there's definitely signs, and it's going to be a storyline. I think Rick Tocchet has said that, you know, he's going to take some time in deciding. Obviously, he has some say in it as well. So, look, I don't think there's coaches out there that are going to immediately come and turn this thing around. Like Gerard Gallant is a guy that's out there. You'll talk about Joe Quenneville, guys that, you know, that are out there that have been there. This team needs a lot more. They need a lot more buy-in from their top guys. The roster is flawed. They definitely need some more. You know, they need another center. They need another scoring winger. Like, they're going to lose players here in the offseason. They're going to have to bring in guys. You short up your defense a bit with, obviously, you know, Forbert and Marcus Pettersson and the emergence of Elias Pettersson. But again, there's a lot of things that go into consideration when thinking about, is just the coach going to fix an issue that's wrong with the team?
Right, and that's why I said he's the coach till the end of the season. So we're not firing him here on Rink Wide, and they're not firing him down at Rogers Arena. He's going to coach, and then he'll have a decision. They'll have a decision. We'll see how it plays out. And that's why I said, if they don't make the playoffs, even if they do make the playoffs, there's still going to be a lot of offseason to really hammer down and get into all of those topics. I want to tell you about the Pacific Toyota dealers, and particularly the Toyota BZ4X. I was in traffic on my way here to the studio before the game. It's like, it's a nice-looking vehicle in front of me, and sure enough, it was a Toyota BZ4X, 100% electric. It's backed by the peace of mind that it's a Toyota, so it's got name brand recognition behind it, the spark and joy that you get when you pass a gas station, knowing you don't have to stop. You got the added perk of being able to access HOV lanes when driving an EV, even when you're alone in the vehicle. So lots of reasons to choose a Toyota BZ4X. And when you do just that, you can get up to $6,500 in rebates and incentives. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. And they want to give you a chance to go see the Vancouver Canucks and the Vegas Golden Knights.
Good game.
Yeah.
Great game. Yeah.
We'll see where the Canucks stand in relation to a playoff spot by then. We're talking about the April 6th game. It's the grand prize of this contest. 2 tickets to the Hronek Minolta Champions Club at Rogers Arena. Pretty swanky. If you haven't poked your head in there, you might want. So enter the contest. It's a night at the Hronek Minolta Champions Club. April 6th, the Canucks and the Golden Knights. You get 2 Canucks jerseys as well. If you want to win, click on the Toyota Pacific Dealers logo on CanucksArmy.com, or you can hit the link in our episode description, or you can follow Toyota Pacific on Instagram and Facebook at Toyota Pacific for your chance to enter. It's that easy. Contest open only to residents of BC and the Yukon, age of majority. All right. We talked maybe too much the other night about who was wearing letters. We should point out Derek Forbert was wearing the A. Now, if Quinn Hughes comes back, all of this goes away. He gets the C, and they'll have the regular A's, but a nod to the leadership of Derek Forbert, who I don't think it was related to the goal, the fact that he scored. You score, you get the A. I don't think that's how they're working it.
It's not winning your end. Look, I think they like him enough that they're going to give him another year. I really do.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Now,
no money.
You don't want him to stunt the growth of DPD, and obviously Tom Hoglander, but
I think they like the veteran presence in the room.
Absolutely, and penalty killing. He's penalty killing value. If you can get him on the same sort of contract, I think just for the penalty killing alone, as long as he understands that he might not play every night, that you're trying to work DPD into the mix here, and he has shown that, you got to water him and let him grow at the NHL level. So we'll see where it goes. But if they brought back Derek Forbert at a low-cost contract for a year, I'd be totally down with that.
We talked about the head coach. Do you want to hear from the head coach?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, he came out guns a-blazing yesterday on the off day. We'll see what he wasn't very happy post-game the other night either with the whole earn your ice time thing. So let's see. We read a couple of quotes, but let's hear from Rick Tocchet in his own voice after this 4-2 loss to Montreal.
You know, you're not into moral victories, so I could ask you about the push in the third, but I want to ask you about the first and just falling behind like that.
Yeah, we didn't have an answer for their top line there with the 3 goals, and that's a good line. They make plays, so we had a tough, that's a tough. We just have an answer. If we first goal, obviously we were give the puck away. We were on the wrong spots against those guys. Anyways, we did make a comeback. Had some goal mouth scrambles. We had, the guys tried. I got to give them a lot of credit.
You get asked about Petey Knightley, it seems. Some playing time got taken away in the last game. It looked like he was much more engaged tonight, controlled possession, got the goal. What did you see from him?
Yeah, no, it was a good shot. Really good shot. I'd like to see that. Hopefully that, just, continues, right? It's a really good shot for him.
What happened on their 3-0 goal? A 2-on-1 seemed to materialize out of nowhere. Where was the breakdown there?
Yeah, Dak shouldn't have changed, and I think Mizey kind of shouldn't have pinched. There was kind of, you can't change on that play. And I think when he left the middle of the ice to go off the ice, that left the middle open. That means the D's can't pinch. You have to play the dots. It was just, a couple of mistakes there. And they, you give Caulfield and Suzuki time, that's what happens. They make those kind of plays.
Seemed like Niels Hoglander had a pretty feisty game leading up to the Hronek goal. He gets the zone exit, gets the entry. Did you like what you saw from him in this game?
Yeah, I just thought, especially last month, his effort's really high. He's trying. He's really, like we've talked a while ago, he's not worried about the first 40 games. You can tell that he's trying to make his second half mean something. So I got to give him a lot of credit. He's working hard.
There you go. Hasn't always been complimentary of Niels Hoglander, but again, right now, when there aren't many guys going, it does stand out. And look, Hoglander has been good since Christmas. The underlying numbers have shown that. I think he shored up his defensive play, where before that was one of the biggest issues with all the coaches that he had played under. They couldn't trust him.
Yeah.
And now he's not getting scored on. Still not scoring a ton, but doing his part to try to help generate offense. And again, the motor's going. We talked about the chance that he had at 2-0. Oh, that might have turned this hockey game, but woulda, coulda, shoulda, didn't. But still, when I look at the Canucks, if I'm going to rank the Canucks 1 through 12 among their forward group, Niels Hoglander probably grades out fairly high on a night like this. But it doesn't matter what order you have them in. You got to get some guys that find a way to produce here. And it was funny, I was thinking to myself, because I saw Linus Karlsson became the all-time leading goal scorer for the Abbotsford Canucks. I don't think you ever want to set records in the American Hockey League. You want to pass through. But if you're there, you're being asked to generate offense. We've seen him up at the NHL level. I thought his last stint, when he scored in Nashville, I thought he was okay. Linus Karlsson's not the answer to what ails the Vancouver Canucks. But if the Canucks played a hunch and brought Linus Karlsson in, who would come out of the lineup? Who would you take out of the lineup?
Wouldn't be Hoglander. Not the way that he's playing. Lekkerimaki. If you're gonna do that swap, you're probably taking out Lekkerimaki.
That's probably the answer. And
because you're not going to put Linus Karlsson in a bottom 6 forward group role.
No, if you're putting him in to score.
To score, yeah. And you're not going to put Lekkerimaki down there for someone else.
And Lekkerimaki, 9 minutes and 33 seconds of ice time, just one shot. And it came early. He had a chance in the slot right after Montreal had opened the scoring. You hope, every time he comes up, you hope that he's grown. And I've seen some development in his game off the puck, but he's here to score goals. And he scored the last time the Canucks played the Montreal Canadiens, but not much doing for Jonathan Lekkerimaki in this hockey game. Again, I don't think they're calling Linus Karlsson. The Canucks farm team was down in Bakersfield, California tonight. So I think you go with the guys you got. You got Nils on here as an extra forward, although I think I'd make that swap probably if I'm going to carry an extra forward. Maybe I'd look at bringing Linus Karlsson back up. But I certainly don't think that Danila Klimovich is getting his first look in the NHL, but he's holding a hot hand. I think I saw he's got 5 goals in the last 3 or 4 games. So there are some signs of life there. And it's been a decent season for Danila Klimovich. I don't know ultimately where he falls on their prospect pool. He wasn't drafted by this management group, and I'm not sure if he's a legitimate prospect for them, but he's still young, I suppose. So we'll see where it goes. But the guys they've got are the guys they've got, and maybe they get an injection of Quinn Hughes. And if he plays, you just wonder. He's not 100%. We know that, but at this stage of the proceedings, do you take a 70% Quinn Hughes and hope that he can get through? The Flames are going to punish him at every opportunity, but if he gets clearance, I don't think there's any doubt that he's going to suit up.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any doubt that if he's going to travel to a one-off in Calgary, right, and not play, like I can't see that happening. I think there's a very good chance you see Quinn Hughes in the lineup for the Vancouver Canucks tomorrow night against the Calgary Flames. How much and what type of Quinn Hughes are you going to see is going to be the real question. Obviously, he's going to be a boost. The guy skates like the wind. He's the best skater on the team by a mile. He is their offense. It's not just saying that to be whatever. It's factual. He is the offense of this team. He's the heartbeat. He's the engine. And maybe more people will jump on board if he's on the ice and trying to run the show and try and get into the game, because right now that there's no one taking them into that fight. And Quinn Hughes does that every night.
Yeah, and I wonder, I would think that Victor Mancini probably comes out of the lineup if that's the case. Although, I'll tell you, I like Mancini. What I've seen from this guy, like, he's big, but he's mobile. I think got a pretty good head on his shoulders. He makes good decisions with the puck. But I think he's the guy that comes out, and then you see how it all shakes down from there. They had no choice, or they had to split Marcus Pettersson and Tyler Myers. They were on the ice for the first 3 goals. Did not like Marcus Pettersson's defensive play on the Suzuki goal. We talked about Myers maybe giving up a little too much space. Still, from the outside of the dot, that's a shot that should be stopped. And then you heard Rick Tocchet asked about the 3-0 goal. Pettersson's back, but Suzuki, that's just perfect execution of the pass, and Caulfield's not going to miss when you put him in that spot. So the first 2 goals, I think defensively, the Canucks could have done a little more. The 3-0 goal, I'm not going to pin it on Marcus Pettersson or Tyler Myers, but they were out for the first 3 goals of the hockey game, and at that point, Rick Tocchet had seen enough, and so he started to move his guys around, and we'll see how they line up against the Calgary Flames on Wednesday night at the Saddledome. We'll talk more about the Flames and preview that game here in a sec. Final shots in this hockey game, by the way, 31-27. So the Canucks get to the 30. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that became a thing. Like, when are they going to get to 30 shots? They got to 30, 11 in the first, 12 in the second, and 8. Would have liked to have seen a little more early in the third period, but they finished with 8 shots. They outshoot the Montreal Canadiens 31-27. Canucks go 1 for 3 on the power play and only took 1 penalty. So disciplined, only gave the Habs the 1 opportunity with the man advantage. Marcus Pettersson with a slash. We talked about his tough night. But Montreal didn't score because the Canucks penalty kill has been terrific since Christmas and was really good again here tonight. Held Montreal to just a single shot on goal. In the 2 minutes of power play time, Habs didn't have their big power play weapon. Patrick Laine missed this one.
Skated this morning, though, yeah?
Yes.
I think by himself. It was optional.
The players that played stayed at the hotel. Martin St. Louis' media at the hotel, but they had a few guys on the ice after the Canucks took their morning skate. And I thought it was interesting, too, the Canucks morning skate this morning. Both power play units out ahead of the main group. And we've seen that from time to time. Usually it's just the first unit that gets out there. But
do it more.
Yeah. Hey, they scored again. That's the funny part. Without Quinn Hughes, the power play has managed to keep its head above water. It's like without the captain, it's running around 20%, which isn't terrible. But yes, Quinn makes the power play better. And so if he's in there, that's an area that perhaps if the Canucks can draw some penalties, go to work with the man advantage and see what they can do. We should mention, because you heard Farhan asking Elias Pettersson about his night. This doesn't totally compute for me, Irf, but the underlying numbers.
Yeah.
Elias Pettersson, individual Corsi of 92.6%, 25-2 were the shot attempts for the Vancouver Canucks at 5-on-5. With PD on the ice, the actual shots were 12-1. And yet his line was scored on once and didn't score at 5-on-5. So I spent the entire night in the offensive zone. By the numbers, it looked like they absolutely crushed it. And yet, again, PD scores on the power play. His line mates don't have much to show for the night. And an unhappy 29th birthday for Connor Garland as he celebrated. And Teddy Bluger playing his 400th NHL game. So we'll salute him for the big round milestone. The magic of Bluger, Garland, and Joshua generated some chances, but alas, was it lightning in a bottle last season? We'll see. I mean, Rick Tocchet's pulling out all the stops and trying just about everything. I don't blame him for going to something that worked last year, but this isn't last year for Teddy Bluger. It's certainly not last year for Dakota Joshua. And you know what you're getting in Connor Garland, but the trio as a whole, yeah, they're okay. As we said, they generated a few opportunities, but it's not about the chances.
Well, no, and
not about those chances.
And that's kind of what I was going to ask you. Like, of the power, the PK's been great.
Yeah.
Power play's kind of stayed afloat a little bit. It's done its job here without Quinn Hughes. What signs, if any, have you seen of something good happening? Like, they haven't scored 3 goals in 14 games now. So if you look at it from a positivity point of view, Elias Pettersson gets a power play goal. Okay, that's nice. He gets 4 shots. He's there. But Brock Boeser really hasn't done much in his last little while. Jake DeBrusk, awfully quiet. Connor Garland as well, pretty quiet. Like,
that's my. I mean, the guys that you mentioned and Philip Hedl.
Yeah,
like, they made this trade. The talk was, okay, Hedl getting more opportunity, playing higher in the lineup. Look out, he's going to spread his wings. And as we said, scored on opening night against Detroit and has 1 goal in a dozen games since. I'm just looking since JT Miller was traded, and that was the same night in Dallas that Quinn Hughes suffered this oblique. So since February 1st. The Canucks power play is 8 for 37, 21.6%. Quinn played a couple of those games out on the California and Seattle portion of the road trip, but otherwise, this is without Quinn Hughes, and the power play over 20%. So that's why I say, like, it's finding ways. You hope that the captain come back and bump that up, but I'm not sure. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but the power play hasn't. I mean, there have been some moments, as Rick Tocchet talks about, where in those tight games, you just love them to put the hammer down. But ultimately, 21.6 isn't that far off their season average. And so it really tracks back to 5-on-5. And, 3 of the last 6 goals that this team has scored. Carson Soucy, Derek Forbort, and Philip Hronek. Not a lot of forwards in that group. No. So really, it's 5-on-5 and the forward group. That's the massive issue, and that's a huge issue in the National Hockey League.
The name of the game.
So I know it sounds kind of funny to suggest it, but if you want to boil it right down to what's plaguing the Vancouver Canucks, it is the lack of offense from the forwards at 5-on-5. And Wednesday's another opportunity to get it right against another. Like, there might only be 1 goal scored in that game. The Flames are the lowest scoring team in the National Hockey League over the season.
Flames stink too offensively, yeah.
All right, so take the under. And we'll talk more about the Canucks and the Flames in a sec, but talking about unders and overs, I took the under for Ottawa and Detroit on Sunday in the Monday game and hit that one. So, it's playoff time for a lot of these teams. The grind is real.
You getting into the Bet365 lines.
Pat on the back there. It is time for our line of the night. What are you looking at?
Yeah, breaking news coming for Bet365. We have more hockey tomorrow. Where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Face-off, hat-trick, power play goal, shot on goal. Penalty shot in every suspenseful minute in between. It's amazing, Jeff. Whatever the moment's never ordinary at Bet365. Official partner of the NHL. Download Bet365 today. Use code NATION to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Took a little 4-game parlay. Only 4 games tomorrow. I like the Sabres at the Red Wings. I actually was going to almost go with a Josh Norris anytime goal for that one. I like the Flames at home. The rest. Canucks going to get in there late. They're going to be angry, I know. They might get Quinn Hughes back, but I kind of like the Flames. Ottawa.
I want to see them angry. What does that look like? I want to see it.
Yeah, so do I. Ottawa and the Montreal Canadiens are going to go to Seattle and beat the Kraken because the Kraken stink too. So those 4 together, I'm not going to give you some bad odds there on Bet365.
All right. Calgary Flames, as we said, they don't score much. They beat Montreal 1-0 on Saturday. That was their last game. So they have been off. The Canucks played Sunday. The Canucks played Tuesday. The Canucks jumping on their jet and flying to Cowtown, so they're up against it, without a doubt. But that's why you play the games, and we'll see what happens. Joel Farabee had their only goal the other night. Dustin Wolf made 26 saves, 3rd shutout of the season. I'm guessing he'll get the call. Again, the guy's got 22 of Calgary's 30 wins. Like, he really should be getting some Rookie of the Year love, and I think he will. Pretty good class. Lane Hudson didn't blow me away in this hockey game tonight, but there were moments where you can see he looks just like Quinn Hughes and sort of the decisions that he makes and the way that he dipsies and doodles with the puck.
They showed a stat on the broadcast through like the first 60 games of each of their seasons.
Yeah.
They're almost identical for Quinn Hughes and Lane Hudson.
Yeah. Speaking of identical, how about this? This late in the season, Nazem Kadri and Jonathan Huberdeau share the Flames lead in goals with 22 and the team lead in points with 46. They have identical point totals and goal totals. 46, not a great leading point total, but without Quinn Hughes, well, maybe it will be with Quinn Hughes. Hughes has 60, and then we know that Garland's up to 39 now. So you're looking at teams that aren't exactly lighting it up when Nate got to 100 on his own last night. As a team, the Flames are 32nd in the league in offense. They average 2.56 goals per game. So if either of these teams can get to 3, it's going to feel like they have hit the jackpot. One of the problems for Calgary, lowest scoring defense in the National Hockey League. Mackenzie Weegar chips in, but he's not Quinn Hughes. And after that,
falls right off.
Almost nothing. Yeah. Rasmus Anderson got off to a decent start, but his point production seems to have fallen off. Flames, though, are 2-0-2 in their last 4 games, so they're picking up points, and the Canucks aren't. I mean, they were before tonight and Sunday. So we'll see where this one goes. Calgary has taken 2 of 3. Remember the opening night big start, big first period. Daniel Sprong, remember him? Opened the scoring. He's in New Jersey now. Did you see that? He got traded at the deadline. Like one of those deals that kind of flew completely under the radar. Daniel Sprong is now in New Jersey. So Vancouver to Seattle, now to Jersey. He was playing for the Devils the other night. Scored the first goal of the season for the Vancouver Canucks, feels like about 8 lifetimes ago. And then JT Miller with the Gordie Howe hat trick and the late goal to tie it and force overtime, and Connor Zary scored. Canucks beat the Flames 3-1 in November at Rogers Arena, and then they lost 3-1 at the Saddle Dome on New Year's Eve. So didn't ring in 2025 in style. The Canucks did, and the Flames did. But those are the 3 games. So Calgary's taken 2 of 3, and a massive 2 points for whoever can get there, especially in regulation. If it goes to overtime, still an important bonus point up for grabs, but really it's about can one of these teams find a way. Canucks can still leapfrog the Flames, get to 71 points, get that 30th victory of the season. If they beat the Flames in regulation, they will leave Cowtown in 8th spot in the wild card position in the West. If they don't, though, if Calgary wins in regulation, Calgary is still a point up. They would go 3 up and have a game in hand. And so that pretty much paints the picture of what's at stake for the Vancouver Canucks. And we should mention as well, game might sound a little different on television tomorrow.
Yeah, Wednesday Night Hockey.
Wednesday Night Hockey, our old friend John Abbott and Kelly Rudy on the call. Local guys not even making the trek on the one-off. So they, Shorty and Murph and Dave Tomlinson, Ray, they can put their feet up. Yeah, we're getting the Calgary broadcast crew on the Canucks game tomorrow night because it is a national game.
Yep. Should be interesting. I think the biggest thing is obviously the goaltending decision. My gut says it's going to be Lankinen. It's a game you have to win. And he's gotten you this far this season, and you know
I'm with you because I think as we do Rink Wide tomorrow night, if they turn to Artur Silovs and essentially their season on the line, that just. And I know he played all right in Utah, and he did what he did in the playoffs last year, but it's been a tough go for him in the NHL. Flames have all this goaltending and Dustin Wolf. And
people are upset with the head coach now. If they play Artur Silovs and lose tomorrow against Calgary Flames,
that's why even if it's back-to-back, Lankinen, 27 saves, 26, I guess, the empty netter as well. But, it wasn't like the 38 shots that he faced the other night against Minnesota. Manageable workload, rest him up, and run him out there. I have to think that it's going to be Kevin Lankinen. And then, of course, the way the schedule works, they got back-to-backs on the weekend. I think maybe you look at Artur Silovs against Chicago because you're not going to do this to Lankinen twice in a 6-night span. He's not playing every game. And Thatcher Demko's not ready. He hasn't practiced yet, skating, but still haven't seen him with the group. And not sure. There's not many practices right now with this condensed schedule. So they go to Calgary, and then they come home against Chicago Saturday, Utah, another big one on Sunday. And then the Winnipeg Jets make their first visit of the season to wrap up this next homestand before the Canucks head out on the road for 6. So that's what's ahead for the Vancouver Canucks. Pat Zilli in the chat says, Jeff, when you pet a dog, do you say, hey, they call me J. Pat for a reason?
On that note.
I generally don't find myself talking to dogs an awful lot. I'm not a dog owner. I like dogs. I like puppies.
I'm just going to make the chat happy.
Yeah, I haven't had that conversation.
J-Pat likes dogs.
I
Puppies.
like dogs. A couple of cats at home, but I had dogs growing up, but as an adult with a family, no. Not dogs. So, no, not talking to dogs, talking to Irf, and I'll talk to Irf again tomorrow.
Yes, you will.
And we'll see what tomorrow brings.
My dog.
Boy. I ask you this? We'll leave it on this. Will either team get to 3 goals tomorrow?
Yes. Will the Canucks get to 4? I don't think so. It'll be low scoring.
All right. With an empty netter somewhere?
Probably.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. All right. We'll see what tomorrow brings. Canucks and the Flames. We'll be back to do it all again. 18 to go for the Vancouver Canucks. Missed opportunity against the Montreal Canadiens. We'll see if they fare better against Calgary. It's a 6 o'clock start Pacific, by the way, so on a little earlier than home games here. And when it's over, we will be here. Jacob Lazar, our producer behind the scenes. We appreciate his help. As always, for Irf, I'm Jeff. The final score one more time. The Montreal Canadiens 4. The Vancouver Canucks 2. That's going to do it for this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.